If you're in your 40s and your ADHD and neurodivergent suddenly feels 3 times worse, you're not imagining it. You're not failing and you're not losing your mind. Your estrogen is declining. It's taking your dopamine with it. Welcome today to Have Coffee with Dr. Sarah. Before we get into today's topic, a quick but important note. I'm a physician, but I am not your physician. Everything I share in this channel is for educational purposes only and does not substitute for a personalized medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Please always work with a qualified healthcare provider who knows your full medical history before making any changes. If you find that you are in crisis or need immediate support, please reach out to a medical professional or crisis line right away. Welcome back, ladies. Let's have some coffee. It's Friday. I'm so excited that you're here. I'm Dr. Sarah with Lush Lifestyle. You know me. I specialize in neurodivergent women's health and hormones. And I am neurodivergent, right? And I'm here to tell you something today. And I don't say this lightly. Perimenopause breaks people. It broke me. And I'm a doctor who specializes in it. I know the science, I've guided patients through it, and I've written about it. So we are going to talk to you today. So perimenopause is not menopause, right? It is a transition, often lasting anywhere between 2 to 10 years, during which estrogen is beginning to decline. All right, we have progesterone declining, we have testosterone declining, and estrogen is declining. It can start in your 30s, right? And it's typically accelerates in the mid to late 40s and does not happen in a clean, predictable manner. It is literally the definition of chaos, right? Estrogen fluctuates widely during perimenopause. It spikes, it crashes, it surges, it drops, sometimes within the same week. And if you remember what I said in last week's video about estrogen and dopamine, you already know why this matters. Every estrogen crash is a dopamine crash. Every fluctuation in estrogen is a fluctuation in the neurochemicals that govern our focus, our motivation, our emotional regulation, our executive functioning, right? And for our neurotypical women, perimenopause is hard, right? It is tough. Just so you know, fun fact, 10% of women will sail through perimenopause and never have an issue. 10%. That means 90% of us are having a problem, okay? So our neurotypical women, they have trouble too. For neurodivergent women, right, and those that identify female as birth, we are already running a dopamine deficit issue, right? We already have an issue with dopamine. So we're already having more fragile neurochemical regulation. And so this can be and feel like a complete and utter failure, right? I want to be specific because I think the clinical language doesn't capture what this actually is. So for me, it felt like my brain stopped working in ways I could not explain or predict. Tasks that had always been hard for me became impossible, right? Tasks that my working memory, already my weakest link, right, with my ADHD, became unreliable in ways that I'd never experienced. I would walk in a room and I have no idea why I was there. Not occasionally, but almost daily sometimes, especially in my luteal, right? I would start a sentence and lose it, My emotional regulation, which I had worked really hard to build systems around, like probably most of you, started failing, right? I was more reactive, more overwhelmed, less able to apply the strategies I know worked, and it had worked for me for 20 years. My sleep was dysregulated. And anyone with neurodivergence knows, anyone in general, like poor sleep is not just about making you tired. It really dismantles all of your executive functioning and scaffolding. Okay. This is, like I said, 10% of women sail through perimenopause with no issue. So 90% of women have symptoms, whether you're neurodivergent or not. But here's the thing. We know that neurodivergent women are more sensitive to hormonal fluctuations, right? That's why out of 8% of women that have PMDD in the world, 40% of them have neurodivergence, right? This isn't weakness, it's our neurological reality. You heard me. It's a neurological reality. Our brains are more dependent on estrogen stabilizing effect of dopamine, serotonin, and norepinephrine. When that stabilization starts to leave, the effects are amplified. Right? Autistic women during perimenopause report that their sensory sensitivities intensify. Sounds become louder. Textures become more intolerable. Lighting is more overwhelming. This is because estrogen plays a role in the sensory gating. The brain's ability to filter, right, information coming in. When estrogen drops, that filter becomes less effective. The world gets louder. masking. Raise your hand if you were masking, right? The energy intensive process of performing typically, right, becomes harder, or I would actually beg to say it becomes impossible. So women who have been successfully masking for decades suddenly find they can't. Their capacity for social performance, for maintaining their environment, for holding it all together, bye bye, kiss it goodbye, it evaporates, right? And here's the thing that I find most striking about the research. Many women receive their autism or ADHD diagnosis or dual diagnosis for the first time during midlife, right? During perimenopause. Not because the condition is new, right? But because perimenopause is the first time that their coping strategies stop working. It's the first time that that mask slips, the scaffolding falls, and suddenly what was always there becomes visible, right? And it becomes visible. And why does the medical system miss this? Well, when a woman in her 40s comes to her doctor saying her brain isn't working, she's more reactive, she can't focus, she's exhausted, her sleep is broken. What does she usually hear? Or what does she hear back in return? Go ahead, say the things you've heard, right? Because I know if you're watching this, you've heard them. You're depressed, you're just stressed, you're burnout, you're a busy mom. Oh my gosh, you're anxious. Try therapy. Here's an SSRI. Come back in 6 months. What she almost never hears is let's look at your hormones comprehensively. Let's see if perimenopause is driving your ADHD symptoms or your autism. Let's talk about how your neurodivergent profile makes you more sensitive for this transition. What does your mitochondrial look like? What is your cellular function? How is your gut functioning? Do you have a toxic burden load? These are very, very different questions. Okay, right? Very, very different questions. And here's the thing. Providers are not trained to connect the dots in the traditional conventional system. We are getting better, okay? We are getting better. But perimenopause is managed by someone else. ADHD and autism is managed by someone else. There's a gap for all women, but there is definitely a gap for neurodivergent women and those identify female at birth in perimenopause. Um, and that leads to misdiagnosis and inadequate treatment. So that's a lot of stuff, right? I want to end with this because I don't want to leave you with the hard part, right? So for me, the turning point was a comprehensive hormonal evaluation, not basic panels, right? I found my ferritin was low, my mitochondria weren't great, right? But a full picture. What is going on with estrogen, progesterone, testosterone? What is your thyroid doing? What is your mitochondrial doing? Remember, those make all of the energy in your entire body. So if they're dysfunctional, right? What is your glucose doing? What is your insulin doing? Okay. This sort of support is what we need. It's not instant, right? And it wasn't a complete fix. It's not like, oh, hey, if we put you on hormone replacement therapy, all is right in the world. No, we have to look at all of the other things. Are you on stimulants and what's that doing and how's that helping? And when we put you on hormonal therapy, how do we, adjunct that? What are we doing? What are we looking at from a cellular? Are you sleeping? If you're not, can we get you to sleep? Can we improve your sleep? Right? What is the thyroid doing? This isn't a quick fix, right? But it requires a complex strategy. It requires us asking the right questions. It requires us looking in the right places and not just throwing pills at the situation or just completely and utterly pretending the situation doesn't exist. No, it requires an actual evaluation and an actual plan by someone who understands neurodivergence in midlife and women and physiology. Okay? That's what you deserve. So ask the questions, right? Before you go to a new provider, say, do you call their office? Say, do you understand neurodivergence? Do you understand neurodivergence in midlife? Do you treat neurodivergent patients? Right? Ask the questions. Again, just like you would with that specialty surgeon, right? You're not going to go to a general surgeon to take off your rare skin issue, right? You're going to go to someone who understands it. Okay? So remember, if this video gave you language for something you've been living with, share it with someone who needs it. We've got to be there for each other. We have got to create a community and amplify information, amplify information, amplify information. Remember, if you want more in-depth information, go to my Substack, right? I publish every Monday and Wednesday, and you don't want to miss it, right? Come join the community. All right, ladies, until next time, stay well.